What's up, everybody? Hope you're all well and in high spirits. This is the second video I said I would post today about unity. Um, so I'm in a restaurant and I see a kid who appears to be Mexican American make fun of and bully kids that appear to be Central American immigrants or, Mexicans from the southern part of the country, immigrants as well. What happened was one group was speaking Spanish, and this other kid kind of started mocking their Spanish. He was saying, "A la verga, a la verga." And I don't know what one of the kids said to him, but he got real serious and he told them to shut the fuck up. And in that crowd of kids that seem to be immigrants, they mostly speak Spanish. And if I've heard them order food, it was with broken English. On the other hand, the kid that kind of mocked their Spanish did so with a knowledge of Spanish words, but with the accent. He doesn't normally use those words. And that group of kids that he told to shut the fuck up, for the most part, didn't want any trouble. They kind of pretended not to hear. There was one kid that was bigger than the other kid, but seemed softer. And amongst that crowd of kids, the smallest, skinniest one looked like he wanted to cry at that treatment. And he stood up and he knuckled up his fist and he had his arms stretched out like he wanted to kill the other kid. And you could tell his friends wanted him to hold back. They were kind of stepping in between and telling the other kid that it's okay. There's no issue. And the other kid walks off and says, "Make sure your friends know to shut the fuck up when I talk to them." Something like that. And again, the smallest one looks like he wants to cry and follow the guy out to challenge him. Whereas the rest are, they're okay with it. They're not really even, I don't know how bothered they are by it. And so the other kid leaves, and then a cop comes in and the restaurant clears out. It's full of kids from the school. I dropped my kid off, and then me and my other kid go get breakfast there before I drop them off at school. And so when the cop comes, everybody clears out except the kid who was really mad and a couple of kids that stayed back with him. And I noticed that all the kids that stayed back with him had burritos and were eating, and they would offer him a bite. "Hey, man, do you want a bite of this? Here, take a bite." And at first he was like, "Nah, man, so I could be fat and afraid like you guys." He was mad. And they kind of ignored it, and they would keep offering him food and were being like understanding towards him. He was their friend. But you could tell that it had gotten to him, and it had, he felt humiliated and wanted vengeance. Is what I saw, and it could just be me. That might have not been the case. I'm not trying to. He didn't say that was the case. He didn't tell me that's how he felt. That's what I thought I saw. And so my food gets called, and when it gets called, I do think that I've often heard people tell others, "What would you tell yourself if you could go back in time and give yourself some advice as a youngster?" And, I can't do that for myself specifically, but I could do it for someone else. And I had thought about how to tell these kids that, an education would really be important to them, because I see the other people, the school clears out and everybody's trying to be in class and they're still hanging out. And they're almost all brown in there. There's a couple black kids, a couple Asian kids that, they're all the same shade of brown, actually. And it's packed with them, and I always feel like these kids might be getting left behind. And I wondered how to say something to them. And after this happened, I realized, well, I'm not going to be able to say something to all of them, but I can say something to that one kid that looks like he wants to cry and fucking just get his, so that he doesn't have to feel like he was mistreated unjustly. You know, if you know, you know, it hurts to be treated unjustly. And again, I also noticed that all the other kids, you know, they had food. Some of them had gold chains, nicer clothes, and this kid had less than the other kids, including no burrito, such that everybody was offering him food and he didn't want it. He was proud. So when my food got called, you know, that kind of ran through my mind, and I went up to him and I said, "Look, man, I saw what happened, and I see how mad you are, and I was an immigrant, and I got mistreated for it. I've suffered 1,000 humiliations, sometimes 10 in one day. I was angry because of it, and I got in trouble. And as a result, I was set back severely in my life. And what I've learned now is that there are ways to fight. You're not wrong in feeling mad at being mistreated, but you can't fight in ways that will hurt you more than anyone else. You know, if you go in there and you focus on your classes, even if you know less English than everyone else, you'll catch up. And you'll have free college. And you could buy a house in this neighborhood and any car you want, and be there for your kids and have a good life. And that's really the best revenge you can get on anyone. And then, you know, because I saw that the other kids had food, I pulled out $10 and I was like, "Hey, man, get yourself a burrito, you know, and just calm down, eating some breakfast." And, you know, I hope you think about what I said. You don't want to do something that's going to hurt you more than the person who offended you, or even as much. And so I think to have preached unity to that kid would have been tone deaf. And I think the best I could do was to preach nonviolence, and that if you must get revenge, let your success be your revenge. And at the point that they're successful, they really don't care about revenge. If they pair it with doing without wanting in return. Because you can get rich and get revenge and still be unhappy. But if you do it right, where you give back and you're still successful, you won't even care at that point. And so that's what I was trying to tell them. Look, man, don't hurt yourself because someone treated you wrong. Use that to build yourself up, and that's how you win. And I don't even want anything bad to happen to that other kid. He reminds me and how he looked and acted and everything of someone I know. You know, a homie that don't speak Spanish, that don't empathize with immigrants. And yet, you know, they raised good kids and were good fathers. And so, you know, that other kid could be all that one day too, maybe. So I couldn't preach unity, but I could preach nonviolence. And you know what? Do your thing. If you feel somehow kind of way towards them, lift yourself up, and that's how you win. And that's the best I could do in that situation. And I was grateful for the opportunity, because I was trying to think of some way to tell these kids, "Hey, man, you guys, you know, you're missing opportunities that I wish I wouldn't have missed." And I didn't know how to do it, and the situation presented itself. And I think it might have been even more meaningful that I reached one kid that seemed angry, seemed to me the most likely to pick up a gun and express to the world how frustrated he is. And when I left, those kids were like, yeah, yeah, someone understood us. Because I've been that kid. I've been that poor motherfucker where everybody else got stuff and I don't. And and I don't fit in. And it's kind of funny because when you think of a lot of this pride in your ancestry and these labels, the kid who, seemed to bully these other kids appeared to be Mexican American. And I'm Mexican. And the kids that got picked on appeared to be Central American or, from Oaxaca, those southern states. Most of them were, of a smaller stature, darker, some indigenous looking features. And even then, despite labels, and I having the same label as the kid that, told them to shut the fuck up, guess he didn't like their Spanish. I identified more with the immigrant kids that got bullied. And I'm not even Central American. Go figure. Hope you guys have a good one. I hope you enjoyed this video. Much love. Purpose of the video is just to say, hey, man, sometimes the best you can hope for is nonviolence and getting someone to lift themselves up with that energy that they have as a result of feeling unjustly treated. Much love.